All right, let's dive into one of the big ones, maybe even the first real novel in English, Daniel Defoe's Robinson Crusoe. Now, you probably think you know the story. Guy gets stuck on a deserted island? But it's so much more than that. As we're about to find out, it's really a deep dive into survival, loneliness, and, well, the kind of island we all carry around inside of us.
And this line? This just says it all. It perfectly captures our main guy, Robinson Crusoe. He's this young man whose hunger for something more, something beyond a normal, quiet life, is like a storm inside him. It's a restless energy that's going to drive this entire story.
So that gets us right to the heart of what kicks this whole thing off: Crusoe's absolute defiance. See, him going to sea wasn't just a whim, it was a choice, a deliberate move against the safe, comfortable, predictable life his parents had all mapped out for him.
And here you can see the two paths laid out for him. On one side, you've got what his dad called the middle station of life. Back in the 18th century, this was the dream. You weren't poor and struggling, but you also weren't rich with all those high-flying ambitions. It meant safety, comfort, predictability. But then, there's the other side, the uncertain horizon. And that's what Crusoe's soul is screaming for: risk, adventure, the great unknown. He knows the danger, but he chooses the horizon anyway.
And boy, does the sea answer his call for adventure, just not at all in the way he hoped. It hits him with one disaster after another, and it all ends with this brutal shipwreck that washes him up on shore, the only one to survive, on a totally deserted island. The very adventure he was chasing seems to have swallowed him whole.
But here's the thing. Just when you think it's all over, that moment of total hopelessness, well, that's where the real story begins. This is where Crusoe stops being a victim and starts becoming the master of his own world, literally building a life from scratch.
And you can see his whole process laid out right here. It's just an amazing testament to what humans can do when they have to. It's not one big heroic act. It's a bunch of small, smart, methodical wins. He paddles out to the shipwreck and salvages everything he can. He builds a shelter, he figures out how to hunt, then how to raise animals and grow crops. He even learns how to make pottery. He's just imposing order on all this chaos, one step at a time.
And this is the really crucial shift. The island that started out as his prison, it completely transforms in his mind. Through his own hard work and intelligence, it becomes his domain, his kingdom. In a way, he kind of colonizes this empty land, right? He's the ruler, and he's also the only subject. He's building his own tiny civilization out of nothing.
So how long does this go on for? How long is he all alone building this life? 28 years. Just let that number sink in for a second. 28 years. It's just a staggering amount of time, and it really shows you the incredible scale of his solitude and his sheer endurance.
But you know, you can't survive that long on just your wits and your hands. It takes something more. And that crushing weight of being so utterly alone forced Crusoe on this incredible journey inward. He didn't just transform the island transformed him.
He finds a Bible in the wreckage, and he starts reading, and everything starts to shift. He stops seeing his survival as just random chance, as luck. Instead, he starts to see it all through the lens of divine providence, this belief that everything that's happened, the shipwreck, his survival, all of it, is part of God's plan. The island becomes this place for him to really wrestle with his faith.
Okay, so just as Crusoe finds this kind of peace and order in his own little world, that world gets completely shattered. This brings us to one of the most famous, most iconic scenes in all of literature. The moment the outside world comes crashing back in the most shocking way you can imagine.
I mean, picture this. More than 2 decades have gone by. He hasn't seen another human soul. He is absolutely convinced he's the only person for thousands of miles. And then one day, he's just walking along the shore, and he sees something impossible.
Seriously, think about it for a second. He's built a whole world for himself. He's the king, the citizen, the entire population. What on earth could possibly break through that perfect, terrifying bubble of solitude?
A single human footprint in the sand that is not his. I mean, can you imagine? In that one instant, his entire reality just flips upside down. The fear, the shock, the sudden realization that he is not alone. And maybe he never was. It changes everything.
That footprint eventually leads him to discover that cannibals visit the island. He ends up rescuing one of their prisoners, a man he famously names Friday. And just like that, Crusoe's whole existence is redefined. He goes from a life of pure solitude to a life defined by a relationship. And it's a complicated one. He's a master, a teacher, a protector, but also for the first time in decades, he has a companion. He rediscovers what it means to be part of a society, even if it's just a society of two.
And then, finally, after all this time, a ship. An English ship arrives, and Crusoe finally gets to go home. So let's wrap this up by looking at the deeper meaning of his journey and why this book has stuck around for so long.
So why are we still talking about this book 300 years later? It's because it's so much more than just a cool shipwreck story. It's a timeless look at these huge human themes: the absolute will to survive against all odds, the incredible power of being self-reliant, the complicated role that faith can play in our lives, and the big lesson he learns at the very end: our deep, fundamental need for other people.
And that leaves us with this really powerful final thought. You see, Crusoe left his island, but the idea of the island, that stays with us. It's not just some place you get exiled to. It's a metaphor, a mirror that reflects the human spirit. And it asks each of us a pretty fundamental question. If you were stripped of absolutely everything, what would you build and who would you become?